the mass shooting in Charleston, South Carolina, there has been much discussion about extremism on the internet and what leads someone from writing to violence. VOA's Carolyn Presutti introduces us to two Americans, similar in age but far apart on views.
This is the face of American extremism in the 20th century. In the 21st century, it's this. Open extremism lurks under the surface, on social media, in chat rooms where users can rail against blacks, Asians, Hispanics, the government, Jews, and more. A computer screen gives anonymity. We found even to interview someone, we had to go into the shadows to hide his identity.
Through the internet.
Roger is 26 and affiliated with a website identified as a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center. Roger doesn't approve of a mixed society.
I think that cultures become expressed fully only when there are boundaries between them. And that when you mix them together, it ends up going down to a kind of the lowest common denominator between them.
He cites what he calls the contact theory to keep whites and blacks apart.
And the idea is that if you bring people together, that it reduces prejudice and things like that. And that's actually often the case for all groups except blacks. When people of other races have close interactions with blacks, they often come away more prejudiced than they did before. It's not true when whites interact with Asians and things like that.
I really can't relate, to be quite honest.
22-year-old Alyssa Morris grew up in an urban, multicultural area. She's also computer savvy, but doesn't spend her life online.
If they stopped sitting behind their screen and talking and got out there and really were open to seeing the world, maybe they would have different views.
Analysts say the internet has made it easier to find people of similar views. J.M. Berger has written extensively on extremists and their use of social media. He spoke on Skype.
There's very few things as powerful as having someone tell you they agree with what you believe or your world or your view of the world.
Dylan Ruth got that validation through his web postings and a manifesto on race. In June, police say he entered a black church in South Carolina and killed 9 people. The dilemma for law enforcement is knowing when extreme chat will turn to violence. Clint Van Zandt is a former FBI profiler.
I've seen members of supremacist groups, for example, say, we can't just tell one nut who's ranting and raging on the internet from the nut who will pick up the gun the next day and go and kill someone.
So Van Zandt says, if they can't do it, how can law enforcement? It's a question that will haunt profilers as they try to get inside the heads of suspects who conceal themselves with the web. Carolyn Presutti, VOA News, Washington.